You knew this book. The Sears catalog, thick as a phone book, in the house. But open it to 1914 and it is selling a 2-story house, mailed to a farm in Elkland, Missouri. 30,000 pieces. 25 tons in one rail car, down to the nails and paint. You could buy your home out of a catalog. So this is a case about the greatest selling machine America ever built. In the winter, its owners took it out and shot it. The file has one question. Why would a company kill the thing that made it? And who was standing nearby, about to turn that same idea into a fortune? The file starts in 1886, in North Redwood, Minnesota, a railway depot the size of a shed. The agent there is a young man named Richard Sears. A crate of gold-filled watches arrives, refused by the local jeweler. Sears gets permission to sell them himself, $14 a watch, to other agents up the line. In months he clears a profit, quits the railroad, and moves the business to Chicago. In 1887 he hires a watch repairman to keep up, a man named Alva Roebuck. By 1893 the firm has a name that lasts a century: Sears, Roebuck and Company. The man who turned a watch hustle into an institution arrived in 1895, Julius Rosenwald, a Chicago clothier who bought half the company. He brought what it was missing: quality control, honest advertising, and a promise printed on every page: satisfaction or your money back.
Sears, Roebuck & Co., cheapest supply house on earth, Chicago.
That was the pitch, and the country believed it. The catalog swelled, 300 pages, then 500, still climbing. But a catalog is only worth as much as the mail can carry. And in 1913, the mail changed. The post office launched parcel post, and finally agreed to carry heavy packages. Sears's orders reportedly jumped 5-fold in a single year. Now a farmer 3 days from the nearest city could order anything, and the anything came to his gate. To fill those orders, Sears had built a plant in Chicago it called the largest business building on earth. 3 million square feet, whole floors moving each order toward the loading dock. A shipping machine, decades before anyone had a name for one. By the 1910s, the big book ran to 1,200 pages and 100,000 items. A 4-pound brick of everything for sale. Curators say that in much of the countryside, a home had 2 books that mattered: the Bible and the Sears catalog. And at the height of its reach, the catalog did the thing we opened on. From 1908 to 1940, Sears sold houses, real ones, by mail. You chose a model from the book. The book made the pitch itself.
For $1,660, we will furnish all the material to build this 7-room residence.
Somewhere between 70,000 and 100,000 of those houses went up across the country. Nobody knows the exact figure. Sears destroyed the records years later. Many are still lived in today by owners who have no idea their home came in the mail. By the early 1970s, Sears was the biggest retailer on earth, and it built a monument to prove it. The Sears Tower, 108 stories, the tallest building in the world. But the tallest a company ever stands is also the farthest it can fall. And here the decisions turn. Sears looked at its stores and decided merchandise was no longer enough. In 1981, it bought a stockbroker, Dean Witter, and a real estate firm, Coldwell Banker. Socks and Stocks, they called it. 4 years later, it launched a credit card, Discover. The financial side worked. What it cost was attention. A former Sears executive put it plainly years later: the company poured its retail cash into everything else, and the store itself came apart at the seams. By 1991, a discount chain out of Arkansas, Walmart, had passed Sears to become the largest retailer in the country. Sears had built its whole name on being the cheapest supply house on earth. It wasn't anymore, and it had stopped watching the price. And inside all of it, the catalog, the big book, the thing that started everything, was quietly bleeding. The New York Times put the loss at between $135 and $175 million a year, 3 years running. So in 1992, Sears did something it almost never did. It went outside. It hired a man from Saks Fifth Avenue named Arthur Martinez to run the merchandise group and stop the losses, whatever it took.
This is painful stuff. It's very unsettling for the people affected. But we need to get through this.
The decision came on January 25, 1993. In one stroke, part of a roughly $1.7 billion restructuring, Sears would cut 50,000 jobs, close 113 stores, and end the catalog. And the man who ordered it did not pretend it was nothing.
This was a very difficult decision because the catalog is our heritage. It's how Sears started.
Heritage. He used that word and signed the order anyway. The company that taught America to shop by mail had decided the future held no place for the catalog. It's how Sears started. It was now how Sears would begin to disappear. The grief was real and loudest where you'd least expect. Not on Wall Street, in towns like Greencastle, Indiana, where a little Sears catalog store had been the whole community's window on the world.
For about a month, it was like a funeral around here.
The woman who ran that store, Barb Lane, watched her regulars come in to say goodbye. Most were older. Many didn't drive. For them, the catalog wasn't a convenience. It was the only store they had.
For our community, we're 50 miles from everywhere, and there are a lot of people who don't drive.
The last big book, catalog number 286, went out in the spring of 1993, and that was that. Sears had decided America no longer wanted to shop from home. It could not have been more wrong, and the proof was already on its way. 18 months after Sears killed the catalog, a man near Seattle filed papers for a company to sell things people would order from home, sight unseen, and have shipped to the door. The date was July 5, 1994. He first called it Cadabra. He'd rename it Amazon. Sears had spent a century perfecting the exact idea Amazon would use to bury it. A huge customer base, a vast shipping network, everything under one roof. A retail professor named Mark Cohen, who once worked inside Sears, said it plainly. It was the Amazon of its day. What was left got handed to the money men. In 2005, a hedge fund investor named Eddie Lampert merged Sears with Kmart, two sinking retailers tied together worth $55 billion, with nearly 3,500 stores. A financial deal, never a plan to sell anything better. They knew what they'd thrown away. In 2017, dying and nearly out of cash, Sears mailed the wish book one last time. The marketing chief said members had told them they missed it, so they brought it back. It saved nothing. A year later, on October 15, 2018, Sears filed for bankruptcy, undone, in the end, by a single missed debt payment of $134 million. The company that once sold America everything, from watches to whole houses, could no longer cover one bill. Where is it now? By early 2026, 5 Sears stores were left in the whole country, in Massachusetts, California, Texas, and Florida. And even those were being sold off for the land beneath them to help repay a $1.6 billion loan. The tower still stands in Chicago. But Sears let go of its name in 2009. Today, it's the Willis Tower. The monument outlived the company that raised it. And so did the catalog. It just runs now under a different name, out of somebody else's warehouse. So here's what I want to know. Somewhere in America, in a closet, an attic, there's still a Sears wish book, the thick holiday one with the toys in the back. And somewhere, a kid once went through it with a pen, circling everything they wanted for Christmas. If that kid was you, tell me what you circled, what you wanted, and whether it ever came. Write it down below. We read every one. And then we'll close the file on Sears and pull the next folder.